It's Tuesday the 13th, and we're delighted to have you here. It's a beautiful day here, cold day, where we are, here in Georgia. I hope it's lovely where you are. We're going to start right off with the letters that have been sent to me. And I look forward to getting your letters both during our chat and the letters that you send me during the week. Those are just enormously helpful. First letter. How do I get to the point where I really don't care what others think about me? I don't mean in a, quote, I don't give a damn attitude, but where and then there's a bunch of dots. I don't, and then he says, I don't know what the opposite of I don't give a damn is. Most of us, and this is not an uncommon question, most of us spend our entire lives begging for the conditional approval of other people. So we manipulate people, we intimidate them, we lie to them. Essentially, we pay people for their attention. We pay for their conditional acceptance. And then when we've done that long enough, either with people in general or with a given person, then often we just kind of give up and then flippantly, in your words, don't give a damn. Like, well, then I don't care anymore. And many of us think that those are the only two ways to go. To manipulate people or to give up and then essentially say, screw you to people. And that's wrong. Those are not the only two ways to go. And it turns out that the right way to go is not a compromise between the two extremes. It's something entirely different. We still need people's love. We do. We need to feel unconditionally loved. But manipulating them for it is a disaster. We can spend our entire lives doing that and just be miserable. So what's the solution? It's really pretty simple. Simply be yourself. Be yourself and tell the truth about yourself. And allow whoever is capable and willing to love you, which would then be unconditional, since you aren't manipulating them, since you're simply telling the truth about yourself, and since you're simply allowing them to love you if they're capable and if they're willing. So you're just allowing it, and you're allowing them to make the choice. Notice, there's no effort there on your part, except for the simply telling the truth about yourself, which is, pretty easy compared to all the manipulating, lying, extortion, intimidation. I mean, gosh, compared to all that, simply telling the truth is pretty easy. And then once you allow a certain amount of unconditional love into your life, then in any given moment, you don't need any one person to love you. So there's a huge difference between not needing any given person to love you and saying, well, I don't care if somebody loves you. Huge difference. Now, note what happens when we have enough real love in our lives. When we have enough love, we don't need the approval of any particular person, but that's not the same as saying that we don't give a damn about people, that we don't care about people. We still care about people, and we also care what they think of us. But we don't need them to think positively about us. We don't need them to define us, because we've already gotten enough unconditional love from people that we've eliminated our emptiness and fear. We already have a sense of our own wholeness and completeness. We already know that we're lovable. We already know who we are. So we don't need the input or the love from any one particular person to define us, to make us okay. So we still need love from people overall, but we don't have to have the love or input or acceptance from any given person in any given moment. That's huge. So then, what any given person tells us in any given moment then becomes information rather than indispensable. Boy, that makes all the difference in the world and frees us up hugely. Without enough real love, however, we're not happy. We're empty and afraid, and we grasp at straws, and we have to have every little bit of acceptance and love. And so we do need people to love us, and then we desperately care what every single person thinks of us, and that becomes enormously unhealthy. So that's the answer to your question. Long, perhaps, but it's actually pretty simple. You get enough love, you become whole and complete, and you don't desperately have to cling to what any one person tells you. There, that's the short answer, and it's in one sentence. This letter is from a young lady who, she didn't state her age, but I know who she is. So, as I remember, she's 11 or 12. She says this: I have 2 friends that are really nice, but lately they're starting to be mean. Which, of course, sheds some doubt on the fact, or on your statement that they really are nice. Like they're both trying out for basketball. They're starting to leave me out. They always have to be together every minute of the day, and sometimes they won't look at me. And I'm feeling unloved every day at school now. I tried telling one of them how I feel, but she didn't listen, and she still does it. In other words, still spends time with the other girl and leaves me out. I want to know what to do. So this is a really common problem. Cliques of boys and girls at school. So it's an pretty important thing to understand. And I hate to tell you how people are, but here's the story. Very few people feel really unconditionally loved. Very few people. So that means that most people walk around feeling empty and afraid most of the time. And they hate that. They're in pain. And people don't like feeling in pain. People don't like having a truck sitting on their foot. And emotionally speaking, most people feel like a truck is sitting on their foot all the time. They hurt. And when people are in pain, they respond to pain every time. They may not respond to what they're supposed to do. They may not do their homework assignments. They may not do their chores at home. But let me tell you, you put somebody in pain and they'll respond to that every time. So, your 2 friends don't feel unconditionally loved. And they're responding to the pain in their lives. And when people don't feel loved, when they're in pain, what they do is they reach out for whatever makes them feel better in the moment. Cliques at school are one way that people take care of or respond to the pain in their lives. Now, we respond to pain in our lives by filling ourselves up with imitation love. And you already know this to some degree. So we fill ourselves up with conditional approval or power or food or entertainment or whatever. Makes us feel better for a moment. And cliques are very effective in doing this because people join cliques for usually one or all of 3 reasons. For when you join a clique, you get a sense of praise, because depending on the level of the clique, the higher the level of the clique, and as you've discovered at school, cliques have ratings. I mean, it's almost like they're advertised on the billboard at school. This particular clique has a rating of 5 out of 5. It's a 5-star clique, and everybody at school knows what the better cliques are. If you're a member of the higher clique, then you kind of get to wear the 5 stars on your shoulder. It's almost like wearing ranks in the military. No kidding. I mean, everybody knows who belongs to the cool clique. So one reason to join a clique is for a sense of praise. Another is for a sense of power, because if I belong to my little clique and I tell you that you don't get to belong to my little clique, then I get to say, up yours, and I get to feel stronger. I get to feel more in control and tough and cool. Now that may not seem like a big thing, but remember, almost everybody's walking around feeling not loved and out of control and miserable and alone. And these two friends of yours almost certainly don't feel loved, and they feel out of control at home where they don't feel loved. But they come to school, and if they can go, no, you can't be in my clique, they feel more in control. Now, you used to be a part of their clique, but see, now things have changed a little bit. See, with imitation love, the third reason, we'll come back in this, but the third reason to belong to a clique is safety. So you got praise, power, and safety. When you belong to a clique, if I belong to a clique, for example, of white supremacists, for example, and there's 15 of us, I feel a little safer with my 14 other white supremacist buddies as they protect me from some imagined threat, maybe real or imagined threat, say from the black or Hispanic kids in the school. It gives me both power and safety. So praise, power, and safety I get from being in a clique. Now you used to be more in this clique with these two other girls. But see, with imitation love, everything is about trading. It's not about unconditional loving. It's all imitation's all about trading. I'll give you X if you give me Y in return. And until recently, the trading was pretty equal. So, like in a clique, gossiping is one thing that holds a clique together. So you get together and you say, boy, don't we really hate the girls in clique B? And so we all sit together and go, blah, 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 blah. And that kind of holds a clique together, and we all gossip equally, and we laugh at them and make fun of them, and that kind of binds us together, and we trade gossiping. Well, if there's one girl in the group who never gossips about the other cliques, and she just sits there silently, after a while, it's likely that we're going to push her out because she's not participating in the fun of being in the clique. Or if she's not cool enough, if she doesn't add to the praise of the clique, if she doesn't dress cool and add honor to the clique, we're going to boot her out too because she's going to drag us down. It's all about trading. Now here these two girls are. They're trying out for basketball, and so see, both of them trying out for basketball adds to the coolness of their little clique. And it also gives them something to talk about and something to do together. This has added a whole different kind of trading, you see, between them. Fun and entertainment, and now they've added another form of pleasure for trading, for imitation love in their little clique. And you don't get to bring that to the clique. The trading has become imbalanced. So what are you going to do? Well, you've got to understand, sweetie, that this is about imitation love. They are paying each other for their acceptance. And you, for whatever reasons, I've just given you some of them, for some reason, you're not paying them enough for them to love you and I say love because it's not really love, for them to accept you as much as they used to. Now, this is hard to hear, darling, but this is the way the world runs. And it's pathetic. It's wrong. But, do you really want to have friends that you have to pay to accept you or love you? I don't know. You're the one that has to make that decision. This may be just a temporary phase on their part, in which case you may decide, okay, I want to still see if I can be a member of this little group. All right, maybe you do. So if you do, then you're going to want to make an effort to see if you can still be a part of this clique, this group. And so you would, for example, invite them to spend more time with you. You might, for example, invite them to do things with you. Invite them over to your house. Invite them to do, the activities they like. I don't. I'm not a 12-year-old girl. And so you say to one or both of them, so hey, why don't we get together and blank? Invite them to do stuff that is enjoyable for them, that would make you more valuable or endearing to the group. That may very well bring you up to status in that group, and you may be right back where you were, if that's what you want to do. Understanding that this isn't about unconditional love. This is about buying your way back into that group. Notice, I'm not telling you what to do or not to do. I'm just saying, if that's what you want, that's what it may take. Or you recognize that they're requiring that you buy their attention. And you say, I'm not sure I want to do that. I'm not sure I want to buy my way into anybody's life. And you move on. In which case, then I would suggest that you sit down and you talk with your parents, who understand some about real love, quite a bit actually. And you talk with them about some subjects that you could discuss with other friends that would help reveal to you who unconditionally loving friends are, so that you can find them. Very simple things that you can say to help you discover what an unconditionally loving friend would be like. People who wouldn't leave you as soon as the trading became imbalanced or unfair. Those are the kind of people that you want to be surrounded by for the rest of your life. Whereas imitation love friends are always going to leave you as soon as things become unfair. They're no fun. Because as soon as things become like they don't want, poof, they're gone. And this is going to be true of all kinds of relationships. Girlfriends now, boyfriends later, husbands after that. Imitation love friends are garbage, I'm telling you, sweetie. Learn the lesson early now. Big lesson, hard lesson to get at age 11 or 12, kid. Here's somebody who says, it's a business question. I'm doing a lot of cold calling right now, and I want to do it in a real love way. So, how do you get callbacks from customers without using some of the typical trading techniques, like offering a gift, pretending you need help, putting pressure on an underling by involving his boss, and so on? You wouldn't believe some of the junk that I've been reading that my boss suggested. It could literally be entitled, How to Intimidate and Frighten Your Prospects into Calling You. Yes, actually, I would believe it. One of the barriers, of course, is in overcoming the customer's aversion to talking with salespeople. My goal in each call is to make a personal connection, qualify whether the customer is a prospect for our services, create interest or demand for services or products, and make a plan for the next steps. So, I'm feeling uncomfortable because I believe I'm supposed to control or manipulate people to get them to buy from me or begin a business relationship. And of course, this is how salespeople get bad reputations. It's all based on fear. It's all based on pressure. And I want to do it differently in a real love way. All right, so using the techniques that you're talking about, the usual salesperson techniques, you can often make a sale. But using those techniques, you will not establish a customer, which is a big difference. You want to make a sale? Sure. Pressure them, push them, intimidate them, scare them, push your way in the door. You'll sell one thing, you'll lose a customer, and so you will lose. And it's very inefficient. So you'll spend all that time making a single sale, and so what? Making a single sale at a time is an enormous effort. And then what? Then you go back, and that's the end of it, and then you have to start all over again. And to do all that cold calling for a single sale, oh, you've got to be kidding. I mean, the most effective salesman on the planet, you talk to all of them, and every one of them will tell you that they're effective salesmen because of one thing: repeat customers, repeat sales. The most effective salesmen are the ones who sit back on their behinds in their chairs and wait for repeat orders. Now, of course, they're out there also qualifying new customers. I get that. But the majority of their sales, for most successful salesmen, the majority of their income is a result of residual income, repeat sales. It's because they have loyal customers. Come on, how could it be otherwise? Making a new sale all the time, man, that's hard work. So there's more and more talk in the sales industry, and this has just become more and more common, like by the year, about the importance of no longer selling customers, but about the importance of establishing an environment where, and I find this obviously very interesting in terms of real love, but establishing an environment where customers want to buy. Huge difference between selling and getting an environment where the customer wants to buy. Who likes to sell? Who likes to convince people? And who likes to be sold? I mean, who on the planet likes to have somebody in front of them who's trying to make them buy something? But almost everybody likes to buy stuff. Everybody likes to buy stuff. We love that. It's a great trip to buy stuff. So we want to put our customers in a position where they want to do that. So the trick is to create an atmosphere with the customer where they see in us and in our company and in the product that we offer an opportunity where they go, well, I want to talk to you some more. You have something that I want. And this is something that I actually suggest that you either go online or get the books or whatever. There's a guy named Jeffrey Gitomer, Gitomer, who talks about this, the importance of getting customers who want to buy rather than selling customers. And to get more specific about that, what you want to do is when you're talking to a customer, the attitude is this. You say to a customer, look, we offer this. This is what we sell. Now, it doesn't really matter what it is. Let's say it doesn't matter whether it's a product or a service. You say, I offer this product or I offer this service. And help them to relax right off and say, I don't want to sell you anything. Now, that's immediately going to put you in the upper 1% of salesmen who are all in a hurry to sell the customer something. So the guy's going to be listening to you right off. He's going to be going, you're kidding me. A salesman who doesn't want to sell me anything. So he's going to be going, really? So why are we on the phone? So you're going to go on and say, what I do believe is that we have a product or a service that will meet your needs either more efficiently or less expensively or in some different way than is presently being done in your organization or by you. You're going to know the words because you know what your stuff is. Or perhaps we bring something entirely different to your organization. For example, we bring an entirely new market to your customers. You're going to know what it is you bring to that organization. But it does have to be something different. More efficient, less expensive, different market, something. Or there's no reason for you to be on the phone. Obviously, you're not going to be there saying we can sell you something more expensive. And then you say, and I'd like to show that to you. Give them an example. We have, for example, with X other businesses in the area, increased the sales, increased the service, increased the customer satisfaction, increased the productivity, increased the safety, decreased the sales complaints. You have done something to improve the business of X businesses in the area, and I believe we can do that for you. So, if I can do that for you, you will want what I have. And I believe that if we can get together and I can show you how we can do this, you will be pleased. If so, you'll want what I have. If not, throw me out. So what you're doing is you're giving them an opportunity to see that what you have will benefit them. Period. And then they will have an opportunity to buy or not. Otherwise, you don't want to bother them. You don't want to bother them with you or with the product. And then you ask them if there's a time that you can set aside that you can show them this thing that will benefit them. That's what you're doing. You're establishing a beneficial relationship where you're going to help them. That's what you want to do, is help them. Because if you can't help them, you do not want to sell them anything. And that's what you're going to tell them. If I can't help you, I don't want to sell you anything. That's going to be different than most people ever talk to them. That's how you do it in terms of real love. Because what's the definition of real love? I want to help you. That's what I want to do. Occasionally I've had a salesman approach me in those ways, and boy, once I do, I won't buy from anybody else. When I was 21 years old, I bought the first pair of new shoes that I had ever bought that wasn't out of a bin that was either marked used, marked down, 12 years old, or horseshoes. It was the first pair of new shoes I ever bought, just, out of the box. And the guy said, you try these on. My interest is only in your comfort. I'll bet you've never put on a pair of expensive shoes. I'll bet you've never tried them on. I said, you're right. I put on this pair of shoes. All I'd ever worn was cheap, crummy shoes, because that's all I'd ever looked for, was cheap and crummy. And so, of course, I wore cheap, crummy shoes, and I wore them out within 6 months. And so I bought this expensive pair of shoes. I'd never paid that much for a pair of shoes. They were, 4 times probably as much as I'd ever paid for a pair of shoes. And they were 10 times as comfortable. And they lasted 10 times longer. Guess how many times I ever bought a pair of cheap shoes again? Never. And for many years I never bought any clothing other than from that man, because of his approach. What he was interested in was whether I was comfortable first. Amazing. New question. How do you feel about giving the essentials of real love to a romantic interest instead of trying to explain the methodology of real love yourself? Do you feel that if they see you're getting a protecting behaviors in watching the video and do not acknowledge you, that they are not acknowledging your truth. Also, what would you consider a positive response from him? This is really not clear to me, so I'm going to try to understand this question. Because it says, if they see you're getting a protecting behaviors in watching the video and do not acknowledge you, I assume you mean don't acknowledge the rest of you, the positive things about you. Let me just kind of see if I can get what you mean by this question. So, would I, let's say you have a serious romantic interest. Rather than try to explain the principles of real love to them myself, would I give them the essentials of real love? Sure. I think it would be more effective if you kind of watched it together and, kind of made your own comments. The only reason I would give them the essentials is because many people have a hard time explaining principles themselves. And so rather than try to explain it and completely botching it, and in the end, you may have explained, for example, the principles of communism, it might be better to, just let them watch the essentials so that they can at least get it explained fairly clearly. So they get the principles explained, but if you're there, then you can get some sense of whether they got it. And if they, and then when you talk about if they see you're getting a protective behavior, that part's not real clear to me. What you do then is, you talk about your getting and protecting behaviors. That's the point. And what you watch for is, can your partner then hear what you're saying without being overly critical? Can they hear it and be interested and accept what you're saying? And then, can your partner, to some extent, not as much as you can, because you've been doing it longer, can your partner respond by saying something about their own? Now, remember, some people are shyer than other people. So, here you've been doing real love for, a year, and you show, this is a mistake people make. You've been doing real love for a year and you show the essentials of real love to your partner, and you tell a little bit of truth about yourself, and then you sit there and you expect your partner to tell the truth just like you just did. That's stupid, because they have no experience. So there's no way they can do it just like you just did. So relax, lighten up. And so what you might say is, you tell a little bit of the truth about yourself, and then you might, for example, say, have you ever had a time when you've done something like that? And give them an example or two. Relax, take your time. Now, if your romantic interest shows zero interest in telling the truth, if they say, well, I don't talk about things like that, that's a good piece of information to have. You probably don't want to be in a relationship with somebody who just doesn't talk about things like that, because if they don't, how in the world do you ever expect to work anything out with somebody like that? So you definitely want to be talking about these things, and showing the essentials to somebody like that is going to be very useful. I have a friend, says this writer, who is struggling with a dating relationship. They've known each other for 20 plus years. They've both been married and have children from their previous marriages. So they've known each other, but apparently they've just been, dating more recently. They're experienced. They're not kids. She's confused because he's playing the game of come here, go away, come here, go away. That's a fairly common game, no matter what the age of the daters. He's jealous when she spends time with friends and goes from let's get married to no, I don't think this is going to work. So she's emotionally drained and confused. Alright, so this is a pretty common problem, no matter what age somebody is. It sounds like he is emotionally immature. Here they've known each other for 20 years. They've both been married before. They have children, and this guy can't make a decision. Now, in his defense, I don't know her end of it. I don't know, for example, he may be playing push-pull, but I don't know whether, for example, she's an attacker and a victim. If she's attacking him, there may be a reason he's pulling away, you see? So I don't know what she's doing on her half of this relationship. Doesn't really matter. What I suggest is that they read the Real Love and Marriage book together, out loud, together, every day. No kidding. I mean, these aren't children. I mean, these people have been married before. They're contemplating getting married. I mean, it says right here they've talked about, let's get married. And then they discuss it together. They might even contemplate doing the 40 days workbook together. I mean, if she brings this up, or if either of them bring it up, it sounds like he's more of the kind of, I don't think this is going to work out. So if she brings it up and he says, well, I don't want to read no dang book together. If he says that, dump him. If you're working on a marriage and your partner isn't willing to read a book that's about creating a marriage relationship, how big of a red flag do you need? Do you need the running banner across Times Square? Good heavens, this is in the dating stage, and he's already pulling away and won't work on a marriage relationship. What do you think it's going to be like when you're married, sweetie? So, read the marriage book and do the 40 days and openly talk about your getting and protecting behaviors. And if he isn't willing, both of you, both he and she, aren't willing to openly discuss truth-telling, getting and protecting behaviors, unconditional love, and aren't willing to work on these things like steadily. We're not talking about perfection here. No. Just work on them and progress toward, make progress toward being more loving and being open. Then, they shouldn't get married, because it'll be a disaster. So, do that. Let's see here. Hang on. I have two of your books, new writer, Real Love and Marriage and Real Love and Dating, which I've read and I've lent to other people. But, don't lend them. Have them buy their own. I'm just teasing you. But I have a question regarding marriage. When do you know that you, meaning both the man and the woman, are ready for marriage? I've been sharing the Real Love principles with the woman I've been dating, and she seems to be able to honestly talk about herself and her mistakes. And she has no apparent issues that would keep me from wanting to marry her or make me believe that we could not develop real unconditional love for each other. So, I guess the question is, how far down the real love path should you go before you decide to make a proposal or a commitment? What things should you be sure of before such a commitment? Let's see here. Well, what I would do, like you said, you indicated that she seems to be able to honestly talk about herself and her mistakes. And the only word that bothers me in all this is she seems to be able to honestly talk about herself and her mistakes. So what I would suggest is that the two of you do kind of what I was suggesting with an earlier reader or writer, and that is that the two of you sit and read out loud together the Real Love and Marriage book, and you talk about your getting and protecting behaviors out loud, and that with each other. And you talk about what your expectations of a real love marriage, what you expect them to be. Don't work out what your expectations or what your standards and so on of a real love marriage are going to be later. Talk about them now. You're going to learn a whole lot about each other. Now, Real Love and Dating is a great book for figuring out who your prospective partner is going to be. Once you've picked who you believe your prospective partner is going to be, then you read the Real Love and Marriage book together. And boy, read through every page. Now, you probably don't need to read the last chapter, which is about divorce. That you could probably skip that. But read through everything. And boy, if you get to a section and you have some disagreements, all the better. Work them out now. That's where you're going to learn the most about her. But when you say she seems to be able to talk about herself and her mistakes, you're going to learn a whole lot more about her as she talks about her mistakes as you read that book. And possibly, if you really want to go all the way, go through the 40 Days book, which you can learn about as you go online and go to the section in the store on books, and it will tell you what the 40 Days book is. As you go through the 40 Days book, it requires you to, in detail, talk about your use of imitation love, your use of getting and protecting behaviors, and boy, you'll learn things about her that you never knew before. Much better to learn them now than later. So I'd say that if you can work through the Real Love and Marriage book and the 40 Days book, and you can do that before marriage, and you can do that with a fair degree of peace and confidence, shoot, you found your partner. Get married. Go for it. This is from a 7-year-old boy. I admire that. That's very cool. 7 years old, typed up his own message, and you can tell that he typed it up. It has 7-year-old punctuation. It's great. It's perfect. And he says, yesterday we flipped a coin to see whose movie goes first. My movie wasn't chosen, so I ran behind the TV crying. My mommy told everyone to go downstairs because I didn't want them to see me crying. When my mommy peeked in behind the TV, I threw a pencil at her. And that's when the consequence bumped in. Apparently the evil mother has been reading Real Love and Parenting. I was acting like a victim and attacking. I was not loved or happy. She said I was tired, and I said I wasn't. But I didn't know what I was saying. So my mom pushed me in my room and told me to go to sleep. Then I just jumped into bed and slept for about 3 hours. I was really tired. So let's kind of go over what happened. So you were going to watch a movie, all of you, and you all chose different movies. And instead of fighting over it, you came up with a way of choosing which movie you would watch first. Now, that's very cool. You were respectful of each other's choices. That's beautiful. And the way you chose to do that was you flipped a coin. Instead of making one person more important than the others, you flipped a coin and let that be the way that chose whose movie would be watched first. That's really very sweet. It respects everybody's choice equally. But then you decided after the coin was flipped that there was really only one way to choose the movie, which was your way. So you decided that you would be the king of the world. and that only one person was important enough to choose the movie. You. Now, keep in mind that I'm laughing only because I have done the same thing many times. Many times. I have decided that I was the most important person in the world and that I should get my way. In fact, every time we get angry, that's what we're saying. Whenever we get mad, what we're saying is the whole world should revolve around me. And that's what you were saying. You were saying, wait a minute, I didn't get my way and I should. So that was selfish of you. And I think you see that now. But you didn't then. And most of the time, you would probably see that that was selfish. Now, here's an important lesson for you. Most of the time, you would see that it's selfish for you to get to pick the movie over other people. But you didn't see that in that moment because why? You didn't see it because you were tired. Now, when we are tired, or when we're sick, or if people have been angry at us, or when we feel stressed, we don't make very good decisions. We become more selfish. We become less loving because we feel less loved. And so we become more selfish and piggish, and we make dumber decisions. Me too, not just you. I've done it many times, not like a long time ago, like yesterday. So you got tired, and so you became more selfish. And so you started to cry. And your mother wouldn't let you have your way, and you got more angry and acted like a victim and attacked, and you ran behind the television and cried. And now I'm going to talk a little bit to you and to your mom at the same time here. Then she made everybody leave so that they wouldn't see you cry. Now, I wouldn't have done that. See, you chose to be selfish and cry. Now, a natural consequence, instead of piling the consequences on you, a natural consequence for you crying would be to just let you embarrass yourself and stay there. She made everybody leave so that you wouldn't be embarrassed and people would see you crying. I would have said to you, you're choosing to act like an idiot. You're choosing to act foolishly. So if you don't want people to see you crying, you'll have to go cry somewhere else. So if you don't want people to see you, you'll have to move. And you almost certainly would have moved, because you didn't want people to keep seeing you. Now, if you'd stayed there, then, I don't know, we'd have to have seen. I might have thrown you a pillow and said, or you can take a nap there. By now you were getting pretty tired, like you said. You slept for 3 hours. We'll see. On the other hand, if you'd stayed there and disrupted everybody, we might have moved just to get away from your noise. But it's rare that I'll pick up a child, like you said, she pushed you into your room. It's rare that I'll push a child into the room. It needs to be a decision you made. And throwing a pencil at her, yeah, I would have given you a consequence too. Because you don't get to throw things at people. Pretty dangerous. I was an eye surgeon for, a long time. And throwing pencils at people, that's pretty scary stuff. So you learned some important lessons. You learned that People really do get to make their own choices. Other people, once the choice was made that you get to flip a coin, that a coin flip was going to decide what movie was watched, that's the choice. And that then being angry about it really was selfish. And that if you're going to throw a pencil about it, there's going to be a consequence about that. If you're going to cry in front of everybody, well, then, that's your choice, but then you probably are going to have to live with that. You learn that your selfishness gets worse when you get tired, and so when your mom says, "You're just tired," the next time, you'll probably believe her. She's not telling you you're tired to be a monster. She's not a monster. She's telling you you're tired for information so that you'll understand it better. So you learned a lot from this. And the idea is just to learn so that we do better the next time. The next writer says, "I think my husband is obsessive about things. When he's into a new project or a new idea or new music or a new class or whatever, he has no time for me. No talking, nothing. I become invisible. And when I can't take the loneliness and the silence anymore, I ask for attention. I gently ask if we can spend some time together, but then he blows up with so much anger that it would scare anybody. One night we went to dinner, just the two of us, and all I wanted was to talk to him, but he talked to everybody else in the tables around us. When I said something about it, he got angry and said I was ruining a perfectly great evening and to not tell him what to do. My heart is broken as he never puts me first in anything or in any time in his life. It's like we're separated even though we're married. When we do talk, he always makes me wrong. So now I don't start any conversation whatsoever. Sometimes I just want to run away from this." In reading this, my impression was that there was a possibility that her husband has a serious personality disorder. The signs of it are all over this thing, even though she writes just a few lines. So she says he's obsessive about things, gets absolutely focused on doing things, but that have nothing to do with her, that all have to do with him. So maniacally focused. Now the personality disorder is narcissism. Narcissists are often very active, but they focus on doing things, and they focus on doing things that benefit and entertain them. And they really don't care about other people. None. Ever. Unless using those people benefits them briefly. They use people pretty much like hand tools, like implements, they're like objects. Then she says he's into a new project, whatever, he has no time for me. Narcissists really don't care about their partners. None. They have partners briefly as a kind of a convenience or as something to use, but they don't care about them. And if they ignored them for 3 weeks straight, at the end of the 3 weeks, if you said something to them, they wouldn't even notice that they had ignored you. No talking, no nothing. Then notice she says that we went out to dinner together, and then what did he do? Now see, this is different than he ignores her because he's depressed. Oh no, he's quite active. She goes out to dinner with him, and what does he do? He entertains the people around him. So he's at a restaurant and he's having conversations with the tables around him. Pretty much only narcissists do this. They engage everybody around them because everybody around them will then give them attention. Now, why does he not talk to her? Because he's already milked this cow dry. He's gotten all of the imitation love in the form of praise and power and pleasure that he can get from her, all of the newness is gone, and she's dry. And so what does he do? He goes out and gets whatever he can from whatever new source he can, and at a restaurant, they're all new cows. Then he goes and finds some, notice she says here, new project, new idea, new music. She doesn't realize that she didn't even realize she was describing a narcissist. New thing, new thing, new thing, new thing. And then when he's done, he moves on to the new cow. Whatever it is, whatever project, people, person, place, and to him they're all the same. A thing and a person, the same. And then when she brings up, well, you didn't spend any time with me. And he's offended because he's going, you just ruined my evening by even bringing this up. You are an irrelevant object. How dare you have brought this up and put a piece of sand in my chewing gum? You have now been an inconvenience to me, you piece of garbage. Because entertaining her is irrelevant. Or her convenience, or her happiness, or means nothing, not to a narcissist. Brief definition of narcissist. I am the center of the bloody universe, and everything else is irrelevant. That is the definition of a narcissist. So she said, we're separated even though we're married. When we do talk, he always makes me wrong. Narcissists are never, never, never under any circumstances wrong, because they're the center of the universe. And if you're the center of the universe, how could you be wrong? If you were wrong, the universe would crumble. So I called her to gather some information, and they'd been married for like 15 years. And so I asked her a whole series of questions, and the answer to my questions were all yes. I asked her, does he brag about himself? Brags about himself all the time. Does he talk about his accomplishments? All the time. When he talks to people, does he present himself as though he were presenting a resume or a curriculum vitae? Is he always saying, look how great I am, look what I do? Look at my greatness. And she said everywhere he goes, he presents himself as a resume. And I said, have you ever asked him, would he be willing to work on his marriage? And his answer was, I have never heard this answer before. He said, no, because it has to come naturally. And it just flashed into my mind instantly. You mean like building a house? Can you imagine saying that to a contractor? Have you worked on the house, on building the house? No, it has to come naturally. I'm waiting for all of the joists and walls and windows and floor and ceilings to come together naturally. Well, we don't really work on the house. It just comes together organically. Somebody asked, to define a personality disorder. It's something that people seem to be just born with. Now, is there any possibility that this could change for him? Could a narcissist, does a narcissist need to? Does a narcissist still need unconditional love? Yes, a narcissist does. I mean, everybody does. And I've seen people with pretty much every psychological disorder respond to some degree to unconditional love. People with personality disorders are the most resistant of everybody. I've seen people with autism, people with depression, people with schizophrenia respond to real love. People with narcissism who are absolutely, completely focused on themselves, and borderline personality disorders, and if you'd like, you can look that up later. I'm not going to go into that. Are the hardest people to approach, because it's like who they are. They're just the most difficult to respond, and we can talk more about that at some point in the future. So what do you do? I mean, this man is going to be the most resistant to being unconditionally loved. I recommend to her that I recommend to you, speaking to her, the writer, that you get all the unconditional love that you can, that you spend all the time you can in the forum, that all the time you can in the conference rooms, that you find all the sources of unconditional love that you can find so that you feel loved, that you give him all the unconditional love that you can, whether he's a narcissist or not. We're not absolutely sure of that. I mean, he has, tons of signs of it, because we have to remember that he's sad and lonely too. So he still needs to be loved, because we're not positive that that's what he has, and even if he does, he still needs to be unconditionally loved. Then at some point, when you feel sufficiently unconditionally loved and you have unconditionally loved him enough, you're going to have to decide whether you can live with him the rest of his life while he's like this, if he doesn't change, essentially emotionally disabled. It would be like living with a disabled or emotionally crippled child. Or do you need to move on? I don't know. Only you could make that decision. But you would need a great deal more unconditional love in your life before you can get to the place where you make that decision. Don't jump into it now. So get a whole lot more love from the people here and see where your decision leads you. In the meantime, it's been just a hoot being with you on a Tuesday night. Look forward to seeing you in a week. And in the meantime, look forward to getting your newsletter today. Exciting news in the newsletter. And in the meantime, remember that it's always about real love. See you in a week.